Hi, good evening, and welcome everyone to another OWASP Melbourne chapter meetup. It's been a while since our last meetup on YouTube. We had one, I think, last month where we talked about secrets management, and that was on the Discord. But hey, welcome. Before I begin, I'd like to begin with acknowledging the Wurundjeri and the Bunwurrung people of the Kulin country, traditional custodians of the land of which our chapter is streaming from today, and to pay my respects to their elders past, present, and coming. I extend that respect and acknowledgement to the Torres Strait Islander people with us here today. So, this month, super excited that there's a couple of things coming up. So one of them is the OWASP Developer Summit. Don't really have much to say about it. I believe Vandana may be touching on that a bit more during a talk, but that's the link if you want to go check it out. Also, the other thing I'd like to highlight, the OWASP Foundation, we are currently working on a project to help understand what does the AppSec profession look like. So for that, we have created a short survey, about 5 minutes, about 10 questions only, to help understand what do you actually do as an AppSec professional, and hopefully we can help chart a way forward for people entering into AppSec. You can go grab that link. The link is also in the description of the video, and answer that. That will be fantastic. Okay, this month, today we have Vandana Verma, legendary AppSec professional. She's been everywhere. If you've been in AppSec, you probably have heard of her. She's also the vice chair of the OWASP Foundation's board, and all around really wonderful person. Today, she'll be speaking to us about developer-friendly DevSecOps. Let's welcome Vandana. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm good too, a bit nervous.
Okay, super excited that you're here with us today. It's been a few months, right? Trying to put this together. So super excited that you're here. Yeah. Super excited to hear what you're going to talk to us about, and how do we actually not frustrate the heck out of our developers while doing security in the DevOps lifecycle.
Thank you so much. I am equally excited about it. Yeah, let me go ahead and share my screen.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Please let me know when you're able to see my screen.
Nope, not yet. And there we are. Now we have it. Take it away. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Vandana. And thank you, Daniel, for the kind introduction. Here, about me, I work for a company named Sneak. I'm on the global board of directors at OWASP. And also, I'm involved in a few conferences and diversity initiative. Apart from that, I love talking about DevSecOps and why it is important, because I have been on the fences of both the edges, wherein I understand what are the problems developers face or even the different teams face. At the same time, how exactly security tries to bridge that gap, but still being a roadblocker. So here it starts, wherein from my personal experience, wherein we were working on the whole traditional software development life cycle. Everything was going good. Security used to come in the end, take 2 weeks, a week, depends. Like how big is the sprint, or how big is the release. But then there was a problem. Like sometimes there were critical releases, and at the same time, critical bugs would come in from the security side, and they'll say, "No, we can't let you go live." And I think I have also said no for the teams, and I know the people whom I have worked. It was very very tricky to convince them that this is a critical bug, and it is not easy, and it is not advisable to go live with those bugs. Uh, Maybe that time in 2010-11, people were not very much aware about security, and they were thinking that okay, security is just something which we might need, and even if we don't take it or consider it, it's fine. And that used to be the attitude. But over the period, this whole waterfall model wherein uh, the process was going on, there were things which were going on smoothly for them, and then releases used to happen like once in 6 months, once in 3 months, once in a year. That used to happen. That changed over a period. Now, if we talk about releases, I know companies releasing multiple sprints in one day, multiple features in one day. So, can we go ahead with the same pace? Is it so easy? No. And that's how DevOps comes into picture. Now, when DevOps comes into picture, uh, earlier DevOps security, those three people were totally different, and there was a huge blame game. And as you saw in the picture, security always started feeling, oh, we are just cleaning the mess that teams are creating. Is it the case? I don't feel so. And that's what I am going to share from my experiences, that what we did and what we can change. And this is what we need. And the fun fact is that people call it DevOps plus DevSecOps, Sec DevOps, and whatnot. But the funny part is that it's all the same. Even though I've been reading about it, like some people have an analogy whereas DevSecOps is the right term. Some people say Sec DevOps is also good because we are trying to bring security first. But here, what do we need? We need developer first strategy wherein they know that this is how the code is built, this is how things are done, this is how the things are part of an application, a product, or a software. So, what exactly we can do? We need to have people who are working together. It's the kind of model we need in DevSecOps, where in DevSecOps, all the people who are part of the whole pieces, like it's like a puzzle, wherein all have to be together. If one piece is missing, it's not going to be worked. Similarly, there are architects, there are project managers; those are part of it. Then we need the right processes, we need the right technology. But for that visibility, how exactly we can do that? We have idea, code, build. It's like everything is going with the right pace. And then comes the profits. That why do we need it? Because every time I speak to a team who's working on the whole development piece, but they're not considering security, they always ask for that what are the profits, why do we go ahead with security? At least now it is not that much, but it used to happen a lot, wherein I'll tell you my own case wherein I was working on those waterfall models with teams, and everything was going smooth. We used to do the testing in the end, and everything was like a bit on the smooth side. Even though we were still in our silos, we used to sit in a separate room altogether. Oh, security team sits there; they'll take care of it, and that's it. And then come a point wherein it all suddenly people started talking about DevOps, 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 and all the sprints features started going on so fast. I remember the first sprint was 2 weeks. Like, oh, this is for so fast. Now I'm seeing that the sprints are very, very short, or even 2 day sprints. I have worked on that. And even as I mentioned, some companies have sprints, like multiple sprints in one day. So how fast that can be. Now, when we have such fast development happening, uh, and features going live, software is going to production, and being shipped to the people, so how can this be easy? Now, it gives us observability because we are observing early on. We are testing early on. We are tracing the bugs early on. And at the same time, we have a confidence that, okay, this is the product that we have built is the fine product. You must be thinking that I have jumbled up. Did I jumble up the slides? I do have a habit of jumbling up slides because I want to set the stage that when we are doing things, why we are doing it. Like, I ask a lot of questions. At least the people who know me, they understand that I have my brain keeps on ticking that why this is there. I am ready to do it, but tell me why. Similarly, developers have their angle that why. And then compliance is a big issue, which I'll come to on later. And then, like the same process, okay, you told me that these are the benefits. You talk about observability, you talk about like compliance, you talk about other things. But what else? Now, let me tell you one very, very interesting aspect. We are also considering that, okay, there is a place wherein people said, I want this. A client came back and said, this is my idea and I want it to be built. Okay. Architects started building the design documents. Okay, this is how it is going to be. Then the whole coding started. Okay, we are writing the code on these specific languages and then started building it. Okay, this is how the code is going to be ready. Now the code is ready and it's going to be deployed. But before that, the environment testing, all those QA testing will happen. Now that's there. Who's going to manage it on the production? Okay, ops jump in, teams jumped in. Okay, this is how we're going to manage in the production. And we're going to learn, okay, this is how things can be done. And DevOps processes are, okay, now a bit simple because people are talking about it, people are sharing knowledge. And how about security? Then security came at every place, from the ideation to the end. Because if we fit in security in any of the pieces alone, what's going to happen? This whole pipeline is going to break. And the fun fact about breaking the pipeline, wherein if there is a critical bug, let's fail the pipeline. But is it easy? Is it advisable? Everyone says that, but I feel that is not right. First of all, we need to understand that when we are ideating or we are doing the coding from a security code angle, we are scanning it, we are doing the testing, we are doing all of that. Is it just enough? No. So the point comes is understand what's the maturity model. Where do we stand? There are many open source models which are available, from OWASP SAM, which is Security Assessment Maturity Model. Now, why I'm speaking about OWASP? Because I think I have some love for OWASP, and and there's something that I have for all the open source projects which are there, because they all the volunteers are giving their sweat in that, they're spending so many hours in that. So these projects have so much to offer. It's just that if we can pick them up and start refining them, they can do wonders. And at the same time, when they are helping us, we need to take the best out of it. Like I said, OWASP SAM, it is a maturity model, it is there freely available, and the things are there. And even if an organization plan or choose to uh, pay for the open for the commercial products, it's fine. But then the best of products can be there, the best of tools can be there, the best of people can be there, the best of processes can be there. But if they are not used right, they're as good as not using it, or uh, just a waste. So best is understand. And there's something called AppSec, or application security posture management. That's what we can do. And who can help us in that? First, developers, because they know the product in and out. They know the code in and out. And that's what I feel. I think whatever developers I have or whosoever I have worked with, they know a lot of things about the product because they have written the code, or maybe the whole team has written the code. And I'll tell you a fun fact story wherein there was one sprint wherein Um, there used to be people and discussing things. Okay, this is what we want, and this is what how we can do it. And then a peer of mine said that no, if there is a critical bug, we need to fail the build pipeline. Okay, I was too new into that whole ecosystem, and I felt okay. I think that's the case where people are talking about failing the builds, but realize that if this happens, what could go wrong? So there was a critical release after that. Like uh, just few days after that, there was a release, and there was a sprint call or scrum call, what we say that, and we were not even invited for that because everybody started thinking that security is only gonna come with a hunter, and we're just gonna say that don't do this, which is not the case, which should not be the case. And that's when we started sitting together, and it took 6 months to build that rapport wherein they can trust us and we can share our vision with them. Because for an organization, developers, operations team, security team, architects to project managers to scrum leads to everyone, we all have to work together with a single vision that okay, this product should go live, this application should go live, this feature should go live with the proper security in mind. But at the same time, if people don't understand security, how can we expect them? For example, QAs have always been there for testing the application before shipping it to production. And developers have been there to develop. And if they're developing good, the website is coming the way the client wants, I think they are doing the best job. But now, what we have started saying, no, you have to take care of security. It is your responsibility. It is just their responsibility. And then it is the way I think we all can speak that no, it is not just their responsibility, it's everyone's responsibility. And when this whole shift left culture comes into picture and the continuous security comes into picture, it becomes everyone's responsibility and everyone needs to speak out. We need to enable them. And when we are enabling them, we are empowering them. We need to make sure that we give them the right set of knowledge, we give them the right set of technology tools and everything needed. I worked on one of the secure coding project. Before that, the project that I was working for did not have a secure coding as at all. Like they were not testing it. And for some of the things, we were doing manual code reviews, which is I feel that not needed anymore because the lightning speed that we are running, it is not advisable to do those manual code reviews. We need automation in place. And when automation is in place, uh, does it help? Absolutely, it does help from the risks that we see. If we talk about software supply chain attacks that have been on all-time high because there's so much code on the internet which is open source. There's so many containers to infrastructure as a code we have started using. And what I feel, it is for the good that we have started using these because it is saving our time, it is bringing in more automation to innovation to anything that we can think of. And it is only motivating all of us to do more around this area. And that's when we are talking about all those cloud native application security, cloud native DevSecOps, and we are trying to build all of these things. And if we don't monitor cloud well, what could go wrong? We've seen the cases wherein the breaches are happening because of the lowest of credentials, not managing the tools properly, not using the right permissions, and not following the right guidelines. And that's why we could see this one breach. I don't know why, but I speak about it almost whenever I come across the third party libraries. I always speak about it, or maybe the third party components that we use. It is important to understand. Now, who can let us know that which all components we are using? Security team cannot keep judging it. I remember having sleepless nights when this Equifax breach happened. This Apache Struct vulnerability came in because we had an enterprise application library, but that was not maintained properly. Some of the applications were missed. Some did not have an updated component that which version of Apache you are using or what exactly you're using. A lot of things. Now, when we sit next to developer, We speak to them that we need to have a good documentation. We need to understand that, okay, these are the things that we should be doing, and if we don't do it, things can be very critical. Now, I'll tell you another scenario which actually happened with me, wherein there was one bug which was medium severity bug. Now, that medium severity bug was fine. We were like, okay, any which ways, we can't stop the release, we can't do anything at the moment, but we need to fix these in 15 days because you need time. And not all vulnerabilities can be fixed before every release. I hope you all agree with me on that. Now, when that's the case, there was another outlining vulnerability which came in. And because of that, this vulnerability became a critical vulnerability. And suddenly, when we were working very closely with developers and the whole operations team, the ecosystem, one of the person who was a security champion came to us and said, oh, there's a new vulnerability which has come in, and I feel that because of which this vulnerability has been impacted, can we look at it? And when we realized that this became a critical vulnerability, and even if it wouldn't have been for that person, we might have missed it, because that could happen. And that's when we need developer friendly DevSecOps, not pushing security on all the developers. And if we don't push it, and if we make them feel that, okay, this is part of our own daily work, this is not something which is extra, or maybe like not the piece of cake, not the extra piece out of the cake. So I can say that development teams will feel motivated, and they will measure themselves around the applications, around the features, and that they will actually figure out that what are the things that could go wrong. And similarly for operations team, they'll understand, okay, this is what I can do, this is what I can figure out even before security finds out, not the hackers but the attackers, but security team finds out. We will find it, we will fix it, and we'll tell them this is what we found and this is how it can be fixed. Because there are cases with security champions, what they did, um, they actually found amazing ways to fixing a particular bug, wherein we suggested some things, and they came up with a totally different regex, totally different validation mechanism. And we were all stunned by that. So it becomes important when we all are friendly, and when this huge amount of code which is open source, it becomes even more important to track them. It becomes even more important to measure our own work that we are doing, especially when DevOps introduced the whole concept of continuous integrations and continuous delivery. And these processes ensure that the code is properly tested, verified, quickly deployed in production. And DevSecOps integrates a layer of security automation in the whole pipeline, which is what we need at the moment. And also, there's a cultural change that is there. Because if I speak about DevSecOps or DevOps and don't talk about cultural change, I think it is not complete. So it has brought a huge cultural change, wherein uh, development teams own their services end to end. All the team members are fundamentally responsible for all the aspects of the SDLC. And when DevSecOps comes into picture, it simply just builds on top of it and becomes part of it. It just melts into it, and it becomes part of the whole ecosystem and not just security team job. And think about, if a developer is testing the code using a secure code review tool, automating it, using it, what is the security team's job? And a lot of people had this question, are we going to lose the job? We are never going to lose the job. And our brain thinks in a totally different way. Like my brain totally thinks in a reverse way. How I can break it? Okay, what can happen? And not just in the development sense, operation sense, or security sense, but in every sense, I think that way. What could go wrong with that? It might be somewhere to the edge of being a bit on the side wherein I might be thinking too much about it, but it is needed. And that's when we come up with more innovations. That's when we come up with more of automation in process. And that is only going to help us. We might be able to detect more of these things. And that's when, if I talk about DevSecOps, I think this whole process conveys it to not just DevOps and security, but it also brings in an angle wherein the whole CISO forum, whole CTO, everyone has to chime in. It also helps in understanding and bringing in the zero trust angle, that okay, that we are not trusting, but we are still trusting each other, and we are relying on that anybody who tries to attack us, we are all standing together, working together, even though we are independent teams. And that's when independently also we have our own point of view. And what we need to do, we need to invite dev and ops team to participate and converse with each other, being on a party with each other. Like, you can invite them to the real party, which we can't have right now, but yes, the virtual party where, or wherein we are discussing the features, where we are discussing the security. It is very, very important. And we interact with a lot of departments, assets, resources we have. Now, when we have all of this, it is important to understand what each of it does, because if we don't know what we have in our environment, what assets we have, we can never ever secure them, whatever best practice we have them, whatever best practices we might have. So it has to do a huge uh, change with the mindset. And automation, which is my favorite place, wherein this whole automation piece only helps, and the siloed mindset can be eradicated. That okay, there's one person who missed it because that person felt that this is not needed. No, that's not going to happen. If it's automated, that means it has to go through that. And the key is to remove the friction as much as possible in any organization, technologies, and DevSecOps processes, which we are trying to have it in the enterprise system and enable the effective management. Now, and if I talk about DevSecOps, it's not a secret anymore. It's not a buzzword. People still call it as a buzzword, but trust me, it's not a buzzword anymore. More developers use open source softwares and libraries, and they understand that this could be wrong. At the same time, not all open source components are created equally, so some of them remain vulnerable from the get-go itself, while other gets worse over time. And we have seen the breaches happening and going all over the place. And especially if we have third party libraries to third party components where we don't have control over, the only thing we can do is either not use them or keep them updated. And it is not the case here. It is case everywhere, wherein when 80 to 90% on the code of the code on the internet is open source, that means we are also using it, so we can keep them updated. Now, people say there is a talent shortage. On the same lines, there's no shortage of talent. We probably don't have a right vision and a mission for it. And the people who are working on ground, like developers, can be amazing security people. I have worked with some of the best minds. When it comes to troubleshooting, when it's come to finding things, they're the best of people. So involving them is equally important. And when you involve them, that means you you are creating security champions. And what does security champions do? They help us in making sure that yes, this could go wrong. So can you share your inputs? They let us know early on. They involve us in all the highlights around DevOps, DevSecOps, and especially with the initiatives. Now, cross skilling is equally important. Now, there's one thing I have realized, that why cross skilling is so important, because this helps us in understanding that these are the things that I want to learn. So there are people who come up to us and say, oh yeah, these are the things that I want to learn, but I have no resource for it, or maybe I don't know where to look for. There's so much of content. And that's when our vision comes into picture as a security people. It only eases of our job, that let them join the security meetings, let them join the security trainings which are happening. So security teams training should not be only for the security team, it should be for everyone. So that's when the whole enablement comes into picture. And why does it all even matter? In order to facilitate the rapid development, innovation, and provisioning the resources that we really want, and the prime planning cycles in any which ways become shorter. But at the same time, there are rooms for innovation, for the whole automation piece. And let's empower each other. Development teams empowering us, we empowering development team. It's not a one-way bridge which we are crossing, it's the two-way bridge. And let me go ahead and stop here and take up some questions before I end up. So I have some more slides. So Daniel, are there any questions that I can answer?
Yeah, are there any questions from the floor? If you have any questions, just pop them in the chat or on Discord, and we'll relay that through. Currently, I don't see any questions that have come through yet. Let's give it a few more moments.
Right.
Hi, Lydia.
Hello.
Hi, Lydia.
Hey, Vandana. Thanks for the presentation. It's awesome so far.
Thank you.
I got a question, if nobody's got a question. I love the fact that you're talking about security champions. I think it's such a pressing topic at the moment. And I have a lot of dev friends, because many of you know I actually come from a dev background, that say, how do I get into security? How do I get into security? And for many of us older people, I'll only call myself the older person here, a lot of us just fell into security. So it's really hard for a lot of people to get a security role straight out of university or college or whatever they're doing. So tell me about some of the skill sets, do you think, or some of the passion or the drive or the personality, I think, that we're looking for these security champions and how they can help security people.
One good part about people, and especially students, is now that they are very much aware about security. Now, how they have come across security domain, because we're talking about it, we're spreading the word, social media, and the news, like the kind of attacks that have happened. To talk about software supply chain attacks, that was all over the internet, right? It hit companies really bad. And at the same time, the colonial pipeline attack, people started talking about it. The whole US was in sort of an emergency that, oh, we will be out of fuel. So now when those things happen, kids even get aware about it. Okay, there's something called cybersecurity. I remember when I was starting in this area, I had no idea that cybersecurity can be a domain where I can work for. It can be a career, or maybe there's something which I can, which I will really, really like talking about. And now, if I look at the current situation, anyone and everyone can join cybersecurity if they have a knack to do things differently. Because security community is one of the most welcoming community, and anyone can join. And you don't have to have some specific skill sets, but you need to define that, okay, this is what interests you. Let's say it could be cloud security, could be application security. And if I talk about DevSecOps specifically, then how things are built. You don't need to be a coder per se. Like, I'm not good at coding. I understand code reviews, but I'm not a good coder. If you ask me that, can you write a code, Vandana? I will say, I'll have a cold feet. I'll freeze. I will not even move an inch. So it is not needed to be a coder. It is good if you understand. But even if you don't, I have my friends working in the industry who don't have the coding knowledge. It's going to be a bonus. It's like cherry on top of a cake. On the same lines, if I talk about the free resources, there are so many free resources which are out there. And for students, there are so many free resources by GitHub, GitLab, and many other open source communities. So you can take help from it. And I remember building a talk from open source tools wherein it's all for free. And you can use it for free. So just use open source components which are there, understand how it is done, and I'm sure any organization would be welcoming you, because everyone understand that there's a skills shortage, there's people short, not skill shortage, but people shortage. So if somebody is learning even 40% of it and they have the right attitude, I think they will get in. That's my perspective and my experience in the past few years.
No, thanks for that. And I think you're right. I think the key is obviously if you don't have that security training or that security background, that security champion can definitely help them learn more and understand more, and get find a way and a path in.
Yeah, totally. And let me share my presentation, and I'll show you some more things.
Let's do it. Let's have a look. What else you got? Let's go.
Yes.
Yep.
So here, it's all about ownership change, wherein we are security. And I used to be like, oh, we are security team, we have the power. But that's not the thing. With great power comes great responsibility. And that's when comes a point wherein when we are shifting left, the power is equally divided into each one of the teams. It goes top to bottom, bottom ups. And the whole DevSecOps architecture is built on that. When we talk about developers, code repository, pre-build, post-build, everything. And at every point, if you see that I have built, there's a security angle that is attached to it. So at every step, we can embed security and can talk about it. And there are so many open source tools that I mentioned that that we can take help from, which are here. And for threat modeling, to pre-commit hook, to software composition analysis, to SaaS, to DAS, so many things are there. And it was developed by a very good friend of mine, and it's here. And the cultural shift, which I was talking about. For the leadership, it's important that we let the developers, the operations team lead the way. And especially when DevSecOps comes into picture, we can't say, this company is doing DevSecOps, we want to do it. Okay, let's do it. But what do we have in our own organization? Because no two companies might have the same DevSecOps architecture. They might have a different language they're working on, a smaller or a bigger application, different features, different audience. So it's important that we let the developers, the on-ground people, showcase that these are the things that can be done in a different way. And at the same time, the transparency is equally important, that what can be done, what can never be done. And when I talk about breaking silos, security team has always been siloed. And same goes with development and operations team or any other team. Now, we all have to work together. Maybe we want it, we don't want it. We all have to work together. So if we don't want to work together, then the leadership has to step in and take the charge and say, okay, let's talk to each other. Let's speak. Where do we stand? What we have and what we can achieve. And for teams, the same way. We need to have collaborative and inclusive cultures, speaking with each other, creating champions. And when we are taking an idea to the leaders, to the leadership teams, we need to speak in their language. We need to talk about numbers, that how we are shifting, how we are changing. Trust me, if you have an idea and you're working on it and you're showcasing that this can be achieved, nobody will ever say no. But if we'll say that this is an idea, we can test it out, they'll say, we don't have time. We have so many things. Till the time you have time and money is equally important for any organization. So we need to show them some benefits. And we need to make sure we prepare our own umbrella before it even rains. Because if we are not preparing our umbrella, we are not connecting with each other, we are not speaking with each other, we don't consider that it's our responsibility, it's going to happen, we're going to be breached. And that is so obvious. Whatever we say, not every company or not all the companies are 100% secure, or not everyone is 100% secure, or are we 100% secure even, like any one company? We don't know. It's a very sketchy area. So the one point that comes in is that DevSecOps would never ever replace the pen testing activities, the testing activities which are there, and we need to understand that we keep accepting the risks, especially with the whole areas that we have. So we don't need to. We need to understand how much risk we should take, because in the end, it's not just going to come on security, it's just come on development, but the whole organization. So we need to be very cautious, and that's when compliance steps into picture. That compliance is not a checklist, it's a place wherein we need to understand that this is integral part of our whole process. And did I miss speaking about the infrastructure as a code? I did. Wherein infrastructure as a code is very, very important. We are spinning up instances using infrastructure. We are talking about cloud native. We are talking about automation. And so compliance can be as a code, which can help us detect early on. And it's never a checklist. Because if we create checklist, we'll check them and we'll forget about it. And I used to call it, oh, this is my bucket list. This is my checklist. I don't feel it anymore, because we will forget about it. And that's when we talk about creating stories. That's when we talk about sharing those stories so that we can have more such stories. And there are so many resources out there. These are just some of them. And don't forget to join us on 24th of July at OWASP AppSec Days Developer Security Summit. This is the first of its kind with OWASP, and it's all free. So you can go ahead and register before the tickets are blocked. And if there is any question, feel free to reach out to me. We will also have after hours for OWASP AppSec Days, so stay tuned for it. Let me see, what else do we have? Oh, I think I'm done. You can reach me on Twitter. I have my DMs open. My LinkedIn is there. Feel free to reach me on LinkedIn. I'll be very happy to have a conversation. If I made a mistake, please do let me know. Just shout out to me that these are the things that can be changed. And if there's any improvement, there's any input, good, bad, anything, please do reach out to me, connect with me, and share it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vandana. It was really great. Glad to hear that whole conversation about outreach and helping developers just move faster and security without slowing people down. Well, before we jump forward, we had a couple of questions that came in. So first up, I'm seeing a couple of thank yous here and there coming through. One of them is from George on YouTube chat, and a couple of others, I think, coming in via Discord. But thank you so much. Just wanted to pass that on. While we wait, I think there is another question that came in earlier. We talk a lot about including developers in security. What should we do to encourage security professionals to be more understanding of developers' needs?
I would say that there has to be a communication from the security side, because till the time we don't make them as friends, as the people who are working together, it is never going to be easy to understand their needs. And few things we need to do proactively, especially when we talk about providing the right set of tools. When we are trying to make sure that they understand security, we need to enable them. We need to ease their job. Example, let's say we ask them that you need to test your environment before pushing it to the production. Now you said it, but help me out. How should I do it? I know one of the developer and a tester who built his own open source proxy, OWASP Zap, which is there now, because they felt that, yes, this is the need of the hour, and we wanted something open source. So not everyone can do that. Not everyone has the bandwidth to do it. Some people just spend nights to do that. So it is important that we share it with them. It is important from the security standpoint that we talk openly with them. These are the things that we are doing. These are the things which you can do. And these are the things where we can help you. These are the things where we cannot help you, and we would need your intervention, where we will do maybe 50-50, maybe 60-40. So it has to be with the clear communication and with transparency, and not being bossy.
100%. Just to expand on that question then, with so much we're already asking of our developers, from what used to be just you're a front-end developer, you're a back-end developer, and now we talk about the full stack developer, and now we're asking our developers to understand the database as well, because you should be using an ORM and you should now be understanding how databases work. Right? And now we're adding security on top of that, all within almost the same amount of time that our project managers and the powers that be, let's say, are expecting us to kind of just still deliver the thing. What's your experience and any lessons from the field that you have learned about making sure that we have a bit more resources and a bit more time for developers to actually do the things, or be supported, that they are not that we are not expected to just be jacks of all trade and hey, it's the same amount of time, same amount of resources, but you have to do this thing now that's called security and keep on top of that. If not, boo-hoo, you have another OWASP top 10 on your app.
Now, I totally agree. And if I say from a practical angle, we need to have some time available for the developers where they can spend it on their learning. And now when you're talking about that, from just developing a few parts to full stack developer, and now we are forcing security on them, it becomes important they enable themselves, we enable them. And we need to have some time required specifically for that. Maybe not all can go on a training, but some of them. Let's nominate. Maybe security team can provide budget around that. That yes, these are 2 developers which can go on training, and then they enabling the other people, like brown bag sessions, because we used to have those brown bag sessions every week. Not every day it's possible, but every week 1 hour we can spend it out, and we can say that you can clock that hour. It is important to discuss these things, and this is not a short-term activity where it comes and goes. It has to be a regular activity wherein they get some free time to innovate, to understand what can be done. Like we get it. As a security, we do get a lot of time wherein we research. So for them, we can have some time, and it's not just from the security perspective, but from a leadership perspective, this has to come down, wherein they have to make sure that 1 day out of 1 week or 2 weeks is there to do the hackathons around security. Like I've seen organizations doing hackathons. So that hackathon day can be around security. I'll tell you one very amazing thing which used to happen between the different teams in my past experiences, wherein they used to have hackathons around security, like who will find more bugs, who will test more bugs, and not in your own code, but in someone else's code. And not to name shame anyone, any other team, but to make sure that to explain, okay, these are the bugs that we found, then these are the bugs that we have to fix, and whosoever find more bugs. And it was a healthy competition, which bring in more internal bounties. So before anyone hit us, we are hitting ourselves and figuring out, okay, these are the things that we can do better.
Nice. That sounds totally awesome. Especially that whole internal competition and exploit and making use of that competitiveness. Well, the people who knows the application best is the people who built it, right? Or the corners cut. Because we don't have time. So following on to that, another question came in via Discord. How, as an external consultant, do you champion actual change when implemented or attempting to implement yourselves in the development pipeline?
First of all, as an external consultant, it's very important to understand the whole life cycle, that what they're doing. Because as an external consultant, it is very difficult to understand end-to-end, but try and understand. I think that's what can help us in providing the changes, because pushing the change as an external consultant is very, very difficult. It is very, very difficult. What we can do is we can only propose that these things should happen. And with the stories that if we don't do it, this could go wrong. We have the live examples. For everything, there are breaches which are there lying out there, and breaches are so common that every other day, the best of companies, the best of organizations, the best of security teams, still applications are getting breached, networks are getting breached, phishing emails to whatnot. So I think the best way to for the external consultant is to share the stories. If they feel there's something not right, and teams will say that, oh, no, 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 this is fine. That's when you have to step in and say, these are the things that could go wrong if we don't do it. Because you can't totally force upon it. You can only share your vision and the things which are there.
Thank you. Lydia, any thoughts on that?
I was actually thinking about something that we were discussing in the Discord just now, and we were talking about, Vandana was mentioning how it's, what have I got here? That it's important, obviously, for developers to work with security, but on the flip side too, I think sometimes, security obviously needs to flip around and work with devs as well. And I think a lot of security professionals are learning to upskill and understanding that dev environment better so that they can integrate and help with that pipeline. I know I was actually thinking, Vandana, when you were talking, when I look at like some of the Jira boards that I'm working on actively, because I do a lot of DevOps, DevSecOps that works as well. When you look at the security tickets versus the developer tickets on those Jira boards, we make up maybe 10% of their workload. But we're the priority, which isn't true at all. And I think pre-COVID days, it was a lot easier for us to sit on our floor and go, you need to do this, you need to do that. But obviously moving down, working with the developers and understanding what they're working on, I think helps a lot. It makes it a lot harder now because we're virtual. I guess the question I was thinking about is what can we do as security professionals to help the devs? I mean, I know we talk about code training and brown bags and security guilds and all those sorts of things, but I'm just trying to think, what are some of the other things that we can do to sort of enable or help devs, because they've got 90% of their workload and we're just, they've got 100% and we're like a small 10% of it. How do we balance our priorities with the deliverables of the project as well?
When we talk about deliverables of the project, I think, as you mentioned, that we are creating Jira tickets, which is one good part that we are speaking in the developer way. But I think instead of we creating it, they need to create it. And how we can do it, we can only speak to them, we can only enable them, train them that, okay, you're using the code, you can scan it yourself. Now, if you find a bug, and I think all the bugs should be logged, and then realize that, okay, these are things which are not there. And I think then we can come step in and finalize some of them for them. Because if we scan it, we log all the bugs, that means it will be like, okay, again, security team is coming in and doing it. And trust me, Lydia, we don't have enough time for looking at each of these things when we are working with multiple teams. And at the same time, even if one thing is missed from our side, everyone will hold us responsible for it. And the fun fact is that nobody should be held accountable for it, not even developers. It is everyone's responsibility. So we need to enable them. They should start using it. And that's what I did in my past experience, wherein I took 6 months to make them understand, to enable them, to give them training on the tool. They started using it in the whole pipeline. We automated using Jenkins. And so I'm not saying that we should use Jenkins only, but anything that we are using. And I think that's going to suffice a lot, because even if we don't want to fail a build, it will still go on. But then we will have a deadline. By this time, we will have to fix this bug or we will be in trouble. And if we are not fixing it, we need to have a proper justification why it is not a bug. And if we are accepting the risks, okay, we'll take that. If something happens, that okay, this is how we have accepted the risk. So there has to be a whole...
Go on, sorry.
No, please go ahead.
No, and I think there's a lot of diversity in the pipeline too. I mean, you see a lot of you see some companies where, for example, if we just talk static code analysis, it may not necessarily be integrated into the pipeline. It may be some existing software where they may have to upload it, get it scanned, and get the results. And trying to scan, millions of lines of code can take days. Where you've got other companies that as soon as they do a GitHub commit, then the scan actually starts straight away. So those small snippets are doing it. So the impact of what they're seeing from a coding vulnerability or a coding, I suppose, pattern that could be better is eased, as opposed to just looking at thousands of vulnerabilities, which is something that I got faced with the other day. How do I help this dev when they've got thousands of vulnerabilities? Where do we start? How do we prioritize? So I think there's a lot to be said, I think, for improving the pipeline, making the processes as more automated as possible, as quicker as possible too, so that you're not overwhelmed by the amount of issues that are coming back. And sometimes developers don't even know what they're looking at either, which is really tricky. And I love the statement that you said, DevSecOps won't replace a pen test, because we know that they're different. It's just something that, can get really misconstrued sometimes as well. So really good points. Really good points.
I'll tell you something very interesting. So I've been lately talking too much with the developers, with the operations team, and with the leaders. Now, there's one point that came in. We have the DevSecOps, but development is happening separately. It's automated. Testing is happening separately. It's automated. And still we have a DevSecOps. Like, everything is operating separately, but still we are running a DevSecOps pipeline. The whole pieces are broken, but it's still running. So that's fun fact. So think about, like, everything is automated, but in their own silos.
Yeah, and Dan, I'm sure you've got experience in that as well. I mean, you see there's so many different pipeline tools, whether using Jenkins or CodeFresh or, oh my gosh, my mind's just gone blank at the moment, but there's heaps of them out there. And I think if companies sort of can uplift so that they're scanning as quickly as possible, you see that ease the burden on the developers as well, because then they can own it and then they can remediate as quickly as possible, where the uplift is still happening.
But at the same time, you have dependency hell, right? Yep. As we move more and more towards assembling code, a vulnerability might crop up in somewhere because somebody decided to pawn off pad left, right? And deleted pad left from the whole repository. So there we go. Oops. And everything else, suddenly you find this web of dependencies and you go like, how do I fix this? Do I fix it? Am I, and trying to untangle this web of dependencies is sometimes just not viable. As much as SES and DEST and composition analysis, all of that is really amazing, and it's easy to just say, old version, patch now, 24 hours, go.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's just unfortunately not realistic, not always realistic. And that's where I think taking a step back and not just putting it all on the shoulders of just the developers and the rest of the team. It's a team sport, right? So the way I see a lot of this is being a team sport, coming back in and going, hey, okay, we get it. And this is all the other things that we have in the defense in depth that your security architects or your other people, your network people, your ops people have in place, so that that vulnerable version of Angular that you have built so many custom components for does not just turn into a oopsie and hey, you've got a problem now. Yeah, that's just my 2 cents expanding on that.
I think this is one area where we can keep on going for hours, because every organization is working differently. Everyone has some takeaway from their experiences, and everyone challenges are different. And that's why people, if they're talking about it, it's great for other people to learn from the experiences which people have. And even security champion program, not every company can have the same program. They might have a different program which is benefiting for them. Some people have a different program which is benefiting for them. And similarly,
Yeah.
the whole pipeline that might be set in a certain way for an organization, it might be different for certain organization. So we'll have to understand what suits us best, and not troubling more things, not disbalancing the things that we have.
And there's some comments that are coming in also saying that, well, some of this just needs to be owned by, some of these responsibilities just needs to be owned by the project team itself and as part of their deliverables. I do have another question coming in via Discord. How do you balance organizational control versus team autonomy when it comes to making DevSecOps decisions? Example, tools used, processes followed.
I would say it has to come from the leadership, not from the security team, not from the operations team, not from the dev team. Because all will be talking about their own silos, all will be talking about their own things. Because I've thought about this a lot. And it has to come from the leadership. Listen to everyone, but do what's right for the organization. And this is an old saying wherein listen to everyone, but do what makes you feel better. Good. Similarly, leadership has to take a decision that these are the things, because then nobody would be blamed for. And secondly, when everyone is being heard, like from security to development to operations team, they are on the same table discussing this and sharing their vision, sharing their views, and we can zero down to the whole leadership view, so that it is not seen as security is forcing it, development is not doing it, operations team is just stuck somewhere else altogether. I think that should not happen. And we leave a lot of times when we are speaking about DevSecOps, we tend to forget about operations team altogether. Like we don't even talk about it. We say, oh, dev security, dev security, dev security. But instead, we're actually missing out on them as well.
And then operations suddenly finds that you have 20 different Jenkins, 15 different GitLabs.
And then that's when
we have to... Sorry, go on.
Yeah. No, please go on.
It's like we have to manage all of that. Wait, this project is no longer in active development, so now it's in maintenance mode. Where's the Dockers for this? Where's secrets management?
Absolutely. And we forget about them. And we forget about production monitoring to logging to security testing to patch management. And new tools or techniques are there. But are we using to the best of them? No, we are not. Look at the Equifax whole history, Equifax breach, and the whole history says that they had the best of tools, but that they were not fine-tuned really well. So it has to be coming top down when things are going bottoms up as well. And security by design is something which we can all approach towards, so that it's indivisible.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, sorry, I'm just looking for any other questions. I do have one. With the, you mentioned a couple of times about, using a lot of the open source tools to help build out and basically stand on shoulders of giants, right? As things start moving so much faster, and there is only so much like our automation can do at such speeds, how do we manage that? Because we are seeing vulnerabilities coming every day. Like in the last 24 hours, we are hearing about the Microsoft SAM vulnerability, right? And we just got a patch for the print spool vulnerability. So as a lot of these things we're building on top of things, and this is Microsoft, but likewise with open source software, as the cycles become smaller, how do we even manage that? And how do we even know, like, how do we even react to that?
I would say that we need to first understand our own environment, that this is what we have. That's the first step. We need to have proper repositories, proper documentation of what we have. And another aspect is we can have a parallel pipeline, that if we cannot stop or block anything, we have to let it go to the production. So when we have a parallel pipeline where we can test, we can go ahead and start understanding that what fails. Because when you talk about vulnerabilities, if there's a patch that comes in, you cannot say, people say that yes, you have to update it in 24 hours, but is it so easy, or is it feasible? I don't think so. Things will break for sure. I've seen things breaking as soon as you patch it. So we need to have a parallel pipeline which can help us understand that okay, these things need to be updated while we still keep the operations running. And when we see that there are 0 days, there are dependencies which are vulnerable, we update them. And even though if I talk about open source, when open source is there, that is going to be there forever, because we are using that. We are so much like it is like a candy which is given to everyone, and we all feel like eating it because this is good. It is not bad. The only thing is how much we use it, and if we use it, how much we keep it up to date. It becomes our responsibility, because we can't blame Apache, we can't blame Joomla, we can't blame WordPress, we can't blame all those open source platforms and open source code contributors, because they are spending time on giving us the best. But it becomes our responsibility equally, like a shared responsibility model in the cloud, that yes, it's our responsibility also to keep the things up to date. Because if one library, one plugin is vulnerable, we're gone. We will be in trouble. I have seen, I remember testing the WordPress applications wherein the admin details were available. We just had to do a WP scan, and then great, I know who are the administrators. So it's tough. So it's a joke that Daniel has bring, and Lydia.
Sorry, I did a joke. I said, yes, we can blame WordPress. Sorry. I was making everyone laugh, sorry.
No, that was good.
So I guess wrapping things up then, there is a question from YouTube that's come through that I'm going to segue into, but and that will be the last question. So if there is any other questions, feel free to just drop in the chat in Discord, and I think we'll pick up some of the questions here and there. And I think Vandana is on Discord as well, so she will be able to see that, and we can respond to that in due time. However, we talked about, we have just gone around on all the various ways we could help mature and be empathetic and to support developers on improving their application security capability. So I guess that brings us to OWASP SAM, right? Because we're talking about maturing that capability. What is your thoughts around an approach to embracing SAM, and how do we, actually get something like that implemented, and what's your experience getting something like that implemented if you've done that before?
I have done it before, but if I start telling, it might take a lot of time. I'll be very candid, and I want people to actually look at the content. So Daniel, I've shared the OWASP Project Spotlight series, wherein I've covered 19 projects till now, and the 20th will be coming on the Sunday. So there are projects which I've covered from ASVS to SAM to Top 10 to Testing Guide to all the other projects, and even Tools project. So which can give the points, okay, what the project is all about, what it does, and practically how it works, how we can use it. So probably I think that's the 15-minute video where you can just go ahead and take a look at it. That's the best place, and I can put it in the Discord as well.
Yep, the link is on the screen, and we'll drop it in Discord as well. Okay, I think that's, looking at the time, I think let's wrap it up for today. thank you very much, Vandana and Lydia. Any final thoughts before we call it to a close? No? Okay.
No, I just put a comment there, and let's continue the discussion on Discord if we didn't get anything answered, and we'll do our best to answer all the questions. I'm sure Vandana will stick around for a little while and answer some questions.
And once again, thank you so much, Vandana. Thank you so much, Lydia. And thank you, all of you who have come today and joined us for this session, especially some of us who are in lockdown. So thank you so much for spending your evenings with us, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vandana.
Thank you.